I used to think a quiet house meant peace. For most of my life, silence felt like something gentle, like the soft hum that follows a deep breath. But after Michael was gone, the stillness changed. It grew heavier, almost echoing. Every room carried a thin layer of dust and memory, settling into corners I didn't have the courage to clean. I learned the sound of empty hallways, the texture of lonely evenings, the weight of long mornings that stretched too far. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. Aaron's name appeared on the screen. He rarely called, not because of distance between us. He'd always been respectful, thoughtful, careful with people's feelings, but because he'd built his own life, as he should. Yet his voice that day held something tired beneath the words. "Is it okay if I stay with you for a while?" he asked. "My place is getting renovated. It's a mess." There wasn't even a heartbeat of hesitation. "Of course," I said. "Come whenever you're ready." And just like that, something in my quiet house shifted. When he arrived that evening, the sun sat low on the horizon, casting gentle streaks of orange across the porch. He stepped inside with a bag slung over one shoulder, and that familiar, warm half-smile. "It's good to see you," he said softly. For a moment, I felt warmth settle into my chest. The simple comfort of another heartbeat inside these walls. We eased into a rhythm with surprising ease. He wasn't loud. He didn't move through the house with the careless energy of someone who assumed it all belonged to him. Instead, he seemed to listen to the space, treating each room as if it had its own breath. He made tea every morning. The scent drifted through the kitchen before I even got out of bed. Some afternoons, he sat on the porch with a book. Some evenings, he quietly adjusted small things I hadn't bothered to fix: a wobbly chair leg, a loose cabinet hinge, the squeaky door near the laundry room. He didn't announce any of it. He simply let kindness weave into the spaces between us. One afternoon, I was watering the pothos by the window when he walked in. The leaves had begun curling at the tips, a silent sign of how little attention I'd given them. "You're talking to your plants again," Aaron said with a soft grin. I blinked. I didn't realize I was. "You always used to," he replied. "It's nice to hear." It took me a beat to understand what he meant. My heart loosened the tiniest bit. Maybe I'm trying to bring a little life back into this place. "You already have," he said, leaning lightly against the window frame. There was something so gentle in the way he said it, not dramatic, not weighted with expectation, just honest. Over the next week, small rituals formed. We cooked dinner together, moving around the kitchen in easy patterns. Sometimes we talked about nothing: the stubborn coffee machine, the sudden change in weather, the old oak tree out front. Other times, silence wrapped around us comfortably, like a blanket that didn't need explanation. One rainy night, thunder murmuring in the distance, I found myself sitting on the living room floor with an old photo album. I hadn't opened it in years. The cover felt stiff beneath my fingers. Aaron walked in quietly. "Can I sit with you?" I nodded, sliding the album so he could see the pages too. We flipped through photographs: holidays, road trips, small captured moments where all three of us were smiling without knowing how precious those smiles would become. When we reached a picture of Michael standing between us, wind tangling everyone's hair, Aaron's expression softened. "He always tried to keep us together," he murmured. "He did," I whispered. Aaron hesitated, then said, "You're doing that now, you know." I blinked at him. "I'm just trying to get through each day." "Maybe," he said gently, "but you've made this house feel like home again. For both of us." Emotion rose slowly, like warm water filling a cold space. "I didn't think I could." "You did," he said simply. "Just by being here." We sat there listening to the rain. The room dim except for the soft lamp in the corner. It was a moment of quiet connection, rooted in loss, shaped by gratitude, warmed by the simple presence of another person who understood. Nothing romantic, nothing inappropriate, just to people leaning gently into shared healing. Later that week, I found him on the porch early in the morning. Dawn was barely lifting the sky when he wrapped his hands around a steaming cup of coffee. "You're up early," I said. He laughed softly. "Couldn't sleep. But the mornings feel nicer here." I sat beside him. The air was cool enough to nip at the edges of my sleeves. Birds began chirping, slow and tentative, like they too were waking from heavy dreams. "You make it feel different here," I told him. "Like the house can breathe again." He turned slightly, not surprised but thoughtful. "You do that too, you know? You think you've been drifting, but you've held so much together." I didn't respond. I wasn't sure how. Sometimes healing happens so slowly you don't notice until someone else points out the progress. A few days later, we made pasta for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a simple meal that filled the kitchen with warm, homey smells. As we ate, he asked me about the garden. I asked him about his work. We moved easily from topic to topic, never forcing anything, never stepping into territory that felt heavy or uncomfortable. After dinner, we washed dishes side by side. Water trickled softly, plates clinked against the drying rack, and yet, somehow, that simple act felt meaningful. We were sharing the in-between moments of life, the small ones that build trust without needing to say much. Weeks passed gently. Then the day came when his apartment was finally ready. Boxers sat by the door. The house felt different that morning, as though it already sensed he was leaving. "You packed light," I said. He chuckled. "You know me. I can live out of a backpack if I have to." I smiled, but a subtle ache pressed into my chest. When we stepped outside, the air was warm, touched with sunlight. He put his bag in the car, closed the trunk, and then turned to me. "I'm not disappearing," he said. "I'll visit. Not because I need help or a place to stay, but because I want to spend time with you." A wave of emotion passed through me, not romantic, not tangled or complicated, just deeply human, appreciated, seen. "I'd like that," I said quietly. Then he hugged me, steady, warm, grounding. The kind of embrace that said we made it through something heavy together. When he finally drove off, I stood on the porch long after the car disappeared. For a moment, the silence returned, the same silence I'd been living with for months. But it didn't feel the same. It wasn't heavy anymore. Wasn't echoing. Wasn't waiting to be filled. It was gentle, like the space between heartbeats. The kind of quiet that welcomes new beginnings without forcing them.